Hello, and welcome to the show Writing in the Tiny House. The entire point of this podcast is to help the tormented artist by sharing what I know about writing, publishing, and stress management so that you can have the tools to produce the content that you have been eager to write. If you have the steps in place, you can produce a short story in as few as 3 months or a novel in as few as 18 months. And hopefully through the ideas in this podcast, you will have the wisdom to adjust that timeline if you need to. I am Devin Davis, the guy who lives and writes in a tiny house in northern Utah. Thank you for tuning in, and please enjoy today's episode of Writing in the Tiny House.
Guys, good morning. We are less than 2 weeks away from NaNoWriMo. Can you even believe it? I kind of can't. 2 weeks is creeping up. That is a shorter amount than I was kind of expecting until I stood here and realized that before I started recording this episode. 2 weeks is not a ton of time, friends. So for those of you who do not know what NaNoWriMo is, it is the time of year where we all, as writers, join hands in a way. And I mean, it's hard to write if you are joining hands, but join forces. And throughout the month of November, the entire goal is to compose 50,000 words, which is super cool. So that's the whole point of NaNoWriMo. It is a big push to draft. And the point of October is to prepare for NaNoWriMo. And so this is our 4th episode on Preptober. So we call it Preptober. We covered already character profiles, we covered outlines, we covered maps. And today we are going to talk about the importance of forming a community. So the thing about NaNoWriMo that I love so much is it is bringing writers together to kind of cheer each other on, to bring a bit of competition to it. I mean, it's a thing where everybody can win if they hit that benchmark. Still kind of a competition against yourself, I guess, but it's cool to see how others are making progress on their work. And that is something that we can't do all the time. That is not a luxury, if you want to consider it a luxury, that we can see. It's not like people post regularly how many words they are in their manuscript. It doesn't happen. One of the trickiest things about writing compared to some other art form is that it is so alone, and it can be kind of hard to share it, especially if you're in the middle of something. I was thinking about this compared to music, and if you have been sticking with this show for a long time, you know that I play the recorder, and I've actually played many things. Music is a big part of my life, and performing music I have done a lot. And the thing about music is if you wish to share kind of this new talent, you can find a piece of music at your skill level and rehearse it and then find ways to perform it. So for me, I actually record music here in the tiny house. And it's a way to share with friends and family how the recorder is coming along for me. With writing, it's a little bit different. So even if you choose to write shorter things, I think about Brigitte, the short story that I wrote a year ago and released back in October of last year, I think. And it is a short story. It is 9,000 words long, but that is still an hour of audio. I took that short story and turned it into an audiobook, and it's still an hour long. And so as far as sharing that, if you wish to still have all of the context and all of the things, you need to share the entire short story, but that requires an hour from someone. And so this is a unique art form in that somebody else just kind of gets to take your reading and interpret everything and experience that for themselves on their own time. And it's not nearly as passive as enjoying somebody else's art or enjoying somebody else's music. It requires an amount of sitting down and doing it on your own. And so with this, it gives us just a way to kind of be a part of a team or to be kind of a community and to record our progress, to cheer each other on, and to just kind of reach that finish line of 50,000 words at the end of November. NaNoWriMo says that 50,000 words is a novel. I kind of don't think so. I think that a novel is at least 80,000 words, but that's not important. The thing is, with this, you can start in the middle of your work in progress if you want to, and just keep going. Nobody's going to be monitoring what you're doing. Nobody says that 50,000 words has to start at the beginning. It can start at the middle. I have a friend last year who his NaNoWriMo project was a book he was working on, and he was already halfway through it. And so another 50,000 words took him much closer to the finish line, but it was a much bigger book. And like I said, nobody's monitoring that. I mean, granted, you could also get onto NaNoWriMo and lie about stuff, but that's not the point either. The point is to draft and to make progress in your work. So if you wish to form a community and if you wish to be a part of my circle of friends, my thing on NaNoWriMo is author_Devin_Davis because underscores are super fun to say into a microphone. NaNoWriMo is a free thing. You get to make an account, you get to log in, and through NaNoWriMo, there are many different things available to you, but there are also a lot of local sources that are likely linked into NaNoWriMo in your area. And so I'm in northern Utah. There are a lot of other people in northern Utah and a lot of writers who are more experienced than myself who can kind of work as a mentorship and give some guidance and suggestions to other people who are just diving into this writing process or who just need those things at this moment. And so NaNoWriMo is more than just this competition. It is also a way to link up, and it's a way to network, and it's a way to find friends. And to do all of that under the umbrella of a big event that happens in the US and also kind of happens in the world, but it is largely in the US, is really fun. And it is fun to just do that. So I mentioned before that a lot of people take all of October to prepare and take it pretty seriously, and I have done that. I still don't have my outline 100% nailed down, and my outlines tend to be pretty dynamic anyway, as I feel that all outlines likely are. As you go through and you draft, it makes sense that parts of the outline are going to change. However, I feel that I have a good enough outline to at least start. And that's the thing about outlines, is you don't have to have the entire book figured out in order to get started. And so on November 1st, a lot of people stay up. So October 31st on Halloween, a lot of people stay up until midnight when November 1st happens, and then they just start drafting. And so for me, for your beloved podcaster, Devin Davis, I've actually taken off work. I took off work on October 31st and on November 1st. So October 31st, I can wrap up some things. I can also get some stuff with this podcast kind of figured out. I don't want to have to worry so much about the content of this podcast during the month of November. And so I'm getting some things prepared ahead of time. And then I'm going to be staying up until midnight, and at the stroke of midnight on November 1st, I'm going to start drafting. And I have some things. I bought some new technology that I'm going to be trying out throughout November, and I will let you all know how that goes. The next episode is actually going to be about that tech. So I'm excited for this. I'm excited to be a part of all of this with you. Again, my friend name, username on the NaNoWriMo website is author_Devin_Davis, and I will have that information in the show notes. So be sure to friend me, and we can all be in this together. So thank you for tuning in, and be sure to tune in next week on another episode of Writing in the Tiny House. And that is it for today. Go ahead and follow me on social media. On Instagram, I am at @AuthorDevinDavis. On Twitter, I am at @AuthorDevinD. And I also have an account on TikTok. Go ahead and find my information in the show notes of this episode. And remember that my short story Brigitte, which was published last fall, is available on Amazon as an ebook and on Audible as an audiobook. Go ahead and check those things out today. And be sure to join me on next week's episode of Writing in the Tiny House.
Run by copy editor Chrissy Barton, Little Syllables Editing is a reliable resource for anyone looking to improve their manuscript. Chrissy does line edits, copy edits, and the final proofread for experienced writers and newbies alike. Go to littlesyllables.com and reach out to Chrissy today. A link is in the show notes.